Hello! Welcome back to my channel. I'm Lena, this is Lena's Bookshelf, and today we're gonna do my April wrap up. So we're gonna talk about all of the books that I read in April. So I have my reading bullet journal here. I have all of my list of everything I read, and we're just gonna take you through it. Talk about the ones I liked, the ones I didn't like, some stats, things like that. So I am trying to read to zero this year, and reading to zero is a challenge that my friend Jackie from her channel Jacqueline, she has been doing since August of last year, and it continues on through the end of this year. So basically, it's just a little challenge to help you really just make sure that you're reading books that are already on your shelf, making sure you're prioritizing books that you already own versus buying all the new releases. So I have been doing that this year, and I have been trying to definitely read more books than I'm bringing in. So the first book that I read, I don't actually have physically, but it was Dark Roads by Shetty Stevens. I read this for the book pick for the month for Jackie's Patreon. And so everybody that is on her Patreon, we all read this together, did some comments about it in the Discord, and we're gonna have a Zoom chat about it, but I didn't really enjoy this one. I gave it two stars initially, but then at the end of the book, there was this epilogue that I really hated, so I gave it 1 star. But anyway, so the premise of Dark Roads, it's supposed to be about the Highway of Tears, but it wasn't. There was like 3 plots going on. The book didn't know what it wanted to be. This girl has this creepy uncle stepdad figure who's creepy, and she, instead of outing him as a creepy crooked cop, she decides to run away, and then she has this girlfriend that shows up dead, and so she immediately is convinced that, you know, this guy did it. And then they talk for a couple seconds about the Highway of Tears, and then they go back to, you know, this girl who just ran away from home basically as a teenager. And I don't know, it was just very confusing. The book didn't know what it wanted to do. It felt YA, and I'm not really a YA reader. It didn't feel like very high stakes. The ending was not very satisfying. I hate when, you know, they have a killer and you're going through and you meet all these people, and then the killer ends up being somebody that, like, you didn't even talk about. Like, I always hate that. And then the other thing that I disliked about it was that stupid epilogue. So we had like a final answer, and then at the end of the book, there was this epilogue that basically just undid the entire ending, and it made no sense, and it wasn't a good trope, and it didn't had anything. It completely ruined the entire story. So needless to say, I did not enjoy Dark Roads, but I did listen to it on audio. I listened to it on Scribd, so it was not part of my Reading to Zero challenge, and I ended up giving it 1 star. The next book that I read, I actually do have here, and it's the Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. So this is the 3rd Simone St. James that I've read, and I have really enjoyed everything that I've read by her. About a blogger, she blogs about true crime, and she gets the opportunity to interview a woman who was tried for murder in like the 80s. She was acquitted. She was not charged with murder, or she was not found guilty of murder, but she was charged with murder. This interviewer gets to figure out, you know, finally once and for all, like, what actually did happen, kind of pull up this story from the past, figure out, did this woman kill them, and was she acquitted wrongfully? Was she charged wrongfully? You know, like, kind of what happened there. I like Simone St. James' characters. I like that her books have a little bit of like paranormal. There's a little bit of, you know, ghosts or hauntings or whatever, but it doesn't take away from the story. It doesn't feel like a ghost story. It kind of meshes in pretty well. There was more kind of ghost vibes in this book than most of hers. It was a lot less subtle in this one, but I appreciated the way it was done. There was like a little bit of romance in there, just enough to add to the story and not take away from it. This was the book of the month pick, I believe, from last month. So it was considered part of my Reading to Zero challenge, and I gave this book 4 stars. The next book I've already unhauled. It was What She Knew by Gilly Macmillan, and I got it kind of on a whim at a used bookstore. It was just a couple dollars, and it was about a woman who, her son went missing, and so she's trying to figure out what happened. I didn't like how the characters related to each other. There was a point of view from a detective, and I don't really enjoy detective POVs. The woman who was trying to find her son, they kept on bringing in all of these side stories about her that really had nothing to do with why her son went missing. And then again, just like I said with Dark Roads, you know, the kind of final ending, when you learn who kidnapped her son, it's somebody that completely new to the story. that hadn't been mentioned, so something completely different. So I don't know, I don't like that. I was hoping it would have been like, I don't know, the sister or like somebody close to them versus just some random person. I did read that combination. I listened to some of it on audio and I listened to some of it, or I read some of it physically. So I did kind of half audio, half reading physically for this one. It was pretty long. It was like 400 pages. The audiobook was pretty long as well, but I listened to audiobooks on 2x speed anyway. So, but that was part of my Reading to Zero challenge. I have had that book on my shelf for about a year now. So it was nice to move that out of my collection, and I did end up giving it 2 stars. Next thing I read was Keep Sweet by Michelle Green, and that book I actually borrowed from Jacqueline. So Jacqueline sent it to me because she and I really enjoy reading books about polygamy and polygamous cults and Mormon polygamists and FLDS and things like that. And so Keep Sweet is kind of a YA fiction version of a cult story about a teenage girl basically getting ready for marriage, getting ready to find out, okay, who's the prophet gonna pick for me to marry? It was fine. It kept me moving. It was a very quick read. I wish it didn't end so soon. Like, I wanted more. I felt like as soon as I was getting invested in the story, it ended. And there was a lot of characters that I wanted to figure out what happened to. I got some answers at the end, but not as many as I wanted. And I gave Keep Sweet 3 stars. Next, we have The 4 Winds by Kristen Hanna. So I do have a reading vlog about this book. I will link it below, but it was a buddy read with Jessie from Reading with Jess. I had so much fun doing that reading vlog. We had so much fun talking about it on Marco Polo and messaging back and forth about it. I did give it 4 stars. I do plan on picking up more Kristen Hanna. I've read historical fiction in the past, but this kind of revived my historical fiction bug, and I do have a couple more historical fiction books on my shelf that I'm going to try and prioritize in the next couple months, but I did enjoy this. So it's based in Great Depression era and the Dust Bowl out in California, and it was heartbreaking, it was sad, it gave me all the emotions. I felt like it was pretty accurate based on what I remember learning in school. I did feel like it was a little bit long, maybe could have been cut down a little bit, but overall I thought it was a good book. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was The Family by Louise Jensen. I also read this because of Jessie from Reading with Jess. It was the book club pick for the Sleep When You're Dead book club, and I downloaded this on Audible to read it, and it was kind of a cult story as well. So The Family is about a woman and her daughter who the woman's husband died and she was down on her luck, and she found out about this farm where she could go and live, not have to pay rent, just be able to help them grow food and things like that. Kind of this this garden group that just kind of takes care of each other, and they wear white and they sit and meditate and things like that, and there's a leader, and pretty stereotypical cult that they get wound up in, and there's a lot of like gaslighting and things like that go down. I liked it more than I think most people that joined Jessie's live show for that, but I'll try and link below the link to that live show as well, so you can go back and watch it if you're interested in hearing Jessie's thoughts and Jacqueline's thoughts. They didn't really like it, but I actually thought that it was decent. I didn't like the ending, but it held my attention, and I liked the writing style. So I did give it 3 stars. Like I said, I listened to it on Audible, so it did not count towards my Reading to Zero challenge. Next, I read Her One Mistake by Heidi Perks. This is the first book I've picked up by this author. It was about a woman who was watching her friend's children, and the friend's daughter actually goes missing. And so then, she has this guilt of like, what happened? I was watching this child and now she's gone. And then you learn that maybe there's more to the story than just this girl was taken in the park. I really did enjoy this. I also got this at a used bookstore. It's been on my shelf for a couple months, so it did count towards my Reading to Zero challenge. And I gave this one 4 stars, more like 3.5, but I rounded up to a 4 because I liked the writing style, I liked the story, it kept me engaged. I was satisfied with the ending. Next, I read We Are the Brennans. And this is kind of it's a family drama, kind of literary fiction about a family that owns a bar and they're about to lose it. One of their sisters, it's like a big family, one of their sisters comes back into town to help them save their bar. And so it's just kind of about these adult siblings navigating what it looks like to be adults and siblings and trying to support each other as a family while supporting their own individual families and spouses and kids as well. It was nice. I gave it 3 stars. I kept on feeling like I wanted more from it, but then I started realizing I'm so used to reading thrillers that I think I was looking for something thrilling when this really wasn't like that. But I thought it was nice. It had a good amount of romance. It had a good amount of, mystery. It kind of had a little bit of everything. This did count towards my Reading to Zero challenge, and I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read was 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard, and this is her debut novel. This is a pandemic thriller. I've had this on my shelf since it was the book of the month pick in July of last year, and I tried to pick it up. I read about 50 pages, and I kind of did a soft DNF. I had heard some mixed reviews about it. I've seen a lot of people unhaul or DNF this, but it was this is the oldest book of the month copy that I have on my shelf currently, and I really am trying to prioritize my book of the month picks. And so I decided, I'm going to pick this up. Another reason it took me a while to pick this up is because I was not able to find an audio version much of anywhere. I was like, I'm going to have to read it completely physically, and I do a lot of driving, I do a lot of traveling for work, and so I really like to have the option to do both when I can. I finally picked this up and read it on the plane, and I really liked it. It was ominous. It was very good at explaining kind of what we were all feeling and thinking and going through at the beginning of the pandemic, like March 2020, how we were all feeling and how we all had these questions. Should we do this? Should we do that? Should we wipe down our milk cartons before we bring them into the house? All of those things. So this is 2 people that meet and they kind of start dating, and pretty much right as soon as they realize, okay, we want to keep learning more about each other, Ireland just kind of shuts down for 2 weeks. And so they start thinking, well, man, we won't see each other for 2 weeks. We feel like we have a good thing going. So they actually decide to quarantine together. So they decide to move in together for the duration of the quarantine. And then once she moves in with him, she starts seeing some sketchy things and starts wondering, okay, what's going on here? This guy has some sort of secret that they're not telling us. And it's cool because it starts at the present day and somebody's died in that apartment. And then you're going back to the first day they met, and you're basically following their relationship through 56 days of them knowing each other and interacting to figure out, okay, who is this person that's dead in this apartment and what happened? How did we get here? I really liked it. I really liked the twist. I liked the ending. There was a twist that I guessed, but it was still really well done, even though I guessed what was going to happen. There was also a twist that I didn't expect, so I always love that. So this was part of my Reading to Zero challenge, and I did give it 4 stars. All right, the last book that I read this month was Dear Wife by Kimberly Bell, and I actually bought this from Jacqueline's Pango bookstore. Typically, if Jacqueline likes a book, I'm usually gonna like it, but then I looked at her Goodreads after I bought this when I was looking at reviews, and I don't think she really liked it all that much, or maybe it's been too long, but I actually kind of like this, and I usually don't like domestic thrillers. I'm pretty picky with domestic thrillers. So this is a domestic thriller that follows 2 people. So first you're following this man whose wife went missing. His wife Sabine is missing and he can't find her. And then you have this other POV from this woman named Beth who is a runaway. And I had all of these theories and stuff, but the whole time I was trying to figure out how these 2 are going to go together. And with these 2 women, you start learning all of these other secrets that go along with them. And it was really interesting. Again, I guessed the twist, but it was still really well done. So I did give this one 4 stars, which really it was like a 3.5, but again, I'm rounding to 4. I didn't give it 5 because it wasn't anything like, oh my gosh, this is a storyline that I've never heard of. This was a twist that I never saw coming. Like I kind of saw it coming, but it was a fun ride. I enjoyed going along for the ride, and I read it pretty quickly. Okay, those were all of the books that I read in the month of April. Whew. So some stats. So just to kind of sum up, I had 1 star, 1 2 star. I had 1 2 3 3 stars, and 1 2 3 4 5 4 stars. So no 5-star reads this month. Nothing truly blew me away. It's been a while since I've had a good 5-star read. So you guys are gonna have to give me some recommendations based on, kind of what I said I like in this video and some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.